And we're live. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Solvable Mysteries podcast. My name is Juras, and as every week, I'm joined by Glenn Highcove. How are you feeling, man?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Staying busy. Just trying to get through to the summer. But there's so much going on, both in the news and just I think in life. It's hard to find time sometimes to find the interesting cases. But we are back to one of the most interesting cases, aren't we?
Yeah, we're back again to the Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon's disappearance case, and mainly the reason why we decided to go back to this case, because we have done a few episodes on it already, was that the guys, well, essentially Kris from imperfectplan.com, he now has been releasing information from his expedition to Panama, to the Pianista trail, where he was examining certain details in respect to this disappearance case of the two Dutch students, well, not students, let's say tourists, Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. And we have went through those articles, and we definitely want to talk about this case because I feel like the information shared on imperfectplan.com that I suggest everyone interested in this case go check out. The information there is definitely fresh. It's new information. And if you're a big time follower of this case, I think you would definitely be well advised to go there and read up on the case. But I've personally read through all of the articles on that website, at least in respect to the expedition that they have taken late last summer 2021. And we're here basically to talk about some of their findings and essentially just talk about it. But I'm also well aware that not everyone is introduced to the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. So, or people have like forgotten the sensitive little details about it. So, I want to quickly read a case background for everyone so that they would be better emerged, let's say, in this discussion this week. So, Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon were two Dutch women in their early 20s who vanished in the jungles of Panama and are presumed to be dead. Both of the girls were from the Netherlands, and they had decided to visit Panama for a 6-week vacation. In order to save up money for this trip, they had worked in a cafe for 6 months back in the Netherlands. Now, their intentions for this Panama trip were to explore Panama itself, learn Spanish, and to help charitable organizations in the places that they visit. Both women were considered to be intelligent and responsible, and both of them were college educated. They arrived in Panama on March 15th, 2014, and for the first 2 days, they stayed in Bocas. I'm sorry, for the first 2 weeks, they stayed in Bocas del Toro, which is a popular tourist destination, and after that, they arrived to Boquete, which is a small town on the Caldera River in western Panama. Boquete is approximately 30 minutes north of the city of David, which is off the well known Pan American Highway. They were staying at a hostel that is still in operation today and is named Spanish by the River. On April 1st, the two girls went hiking together without a guide near Baru Volcano, a very large volcano that's surrounded by a rainforest and unnamed towns and indigenous areas. It is generally believed that Kris and Lisanne wanted to hike on the Pianista Trail, a popular trail that leads to El Mirador, otherwise known as the Overlook. Now, when you reach El Mirador, you can actually see a 360-degree view of the mountainous rainforest. The girls also brought a dog on the trip with them named Azul, who belonged to the owners of Il Pianista, which was a restaurant at the beginning of the trail. Later, during the night of April 1st, Azul the dog had returned home without the girls. This alerted the restaurant's owners. This also suggested that something bad must have happened to the girls while they were on this trail. The girls' parents back in the Netherlands also stopped receiving messages from the girls, which they have been receiving on a daily basis. The next day, on April 2nd, the girls missed an appointment with a local travel guide. Also on April 2nd, authorities were officially notified that the girls had disappeared, and then the following day, on April 3rd, authorities began aerial searches for the two girls. Also, search groups organized to search the rainforest where the girls were thought to be hiking. 4 days later, on April 6th, the parents of both of the girls arrived in Panama from the Netherlands. Locals and foreigners united together in teams and searched for the two girls, but nobody could find anything. There was not a single remnant, a footprint, nothing to show that the girls had even been in that area. 3 months later, Lisanne's blue backpack was found on the edge of a riverbank near the unmapped village of Alto Romero, approximately 5 miles away from where the girls were thought to be hiking. This was strange because 5 miles is a long distance in the jungle. There's cliffs, ravines, rivers, as well as dangerous creatures. It's very unlikely that Kris and Lisanne would have been walking there on purpose. Something must have gone terribly wrong. Another bizarre detail regarding the backpack was that everything inside of the backpack was organized and still in perfect working condition. The woman that found the backpack claims that the backpack was not there the day before, implying that someone had put the backpack there shortly before it was discovered. Now, inside of Lisanne's backpack were the following items, okay? 2 pairs of sunglasses, $83 in cash, Lisanne's passport, a water bottle, Lisanne's camera, 2 bras, both of the woman's phones. The fact that Lisanne's backpack turned up with these items, including perfectly working electronic devices, 3 months after their disappearance, 5 miles away from their last known location next to a riverbank, found by a woman who said that the backpack was placed there by someone else shortly before its discovery, raises a lot of suspicion in this case. Since the backpack was discovered far from the initial search area, another search group was organized to search closer to the location of the backpack. After these new waves of the search began, they found articles of the girls' clothing alongside a river a few miles from where the backpack was found. There are conflicting reports regarding how the girls' clothes were found. Some sources state that they have been found neatly folded on the side of the river, and other sources state that they have been found floating in the river. Now, these articles of clothing have not been properly handled by the Panamanian authorities. That's why we have these varying and conflicting reports. 2 months after the backpack was found, parts of the two girls' bodily remains were found. DNA testing confirmed that the remains belonged to the two women. The bodily remains that were found included a piece of Kris's pelvic bone. Kris's pelvic bone had also been altered by a chemical, potentially bleached with lime. Lisanne's boot, with her foot still inside of it, was also found, and Lisanne's foot bone that was still inside of the boot had some skin attached to it and was discovered relatively fresh. Another 33 scattered bone fragments were discovered spread over a large area. Of the bones found, DNA identified that the bones belonged to at least 5 different people, meaning that human bones of at least another 3 unknown individuals were found there as well. A forensic scientist noted that the bones had no scratches on them, which was strange since bones traveling in the river would almost certainly get micro abrasions from collisions with rocks in the river. The chemical remnants found on Kris Kremers' pelvic bone were later proposed to possibly be lime, although no final answer was determined. Lime comes from limestone, a natural chemical which can be found in nature, but there are no lime deposits anywhere near the areas in which the bones were found. When forensics teams tested the DNA of the bones located, they identified that some of the bones belonged to the 2 girls, but in an unexpected twist, the forensics team also found DNA of 3 other unknown people. This chilling detail essentially means that the 2 girls weren't the first to end up in that river. The girls' cell phones that were found inside of Lisanne's backpack showed that the girls had placed numerous distress calls within a few hours after beginning their hike on April 1st. These early distress calls mean that something happened relatively soon after Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon left for their hike. The second day of their disappearance, Lisanne Froon's Samsung phone had actually connected to a cell tower just for a brief moment, but had disconnected for a reason we don't know. 4 days into their disappearance on April 5th, Lisanne's phone's battery died, and the phone was not used again after 5 a.m. in that morning. Kris's iPhone had no records of additional calls after the same time period, but the phone records show that her phone was intermittently turned on, likely to search for phone reception and check the time. There are speculations that someone else may have been using Kris and Lisanne's phones at this point. Lisanne's camera was also found in the backpack. It was still in perfect working order. On April 8th, 2 days before Kris's iPhone battery died, 90 flash photos were taken between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. in complete darkness. The photos were taken of a number of different things, including a few photos identifying their possible location at that time, that they were possibly near a river or a ravine. Some photos show a twig with plastic bags and candy wrappers on top of a rock. Another photo shows what looks like toilet paper and a mirror on another rock. Another shows the back of Kris's head, possibly because she was injured and bleeding, or possibly this was an accidental picture taken by someone messing with the camera. Bizarrely, one of the photos, photo number 509, was deleted from the camera. There's a lot of speculation on why these nighttime photos were taken. Some suggest that the reason why the girls are in none of these pictures is because someone else was taking them, possibly their killer. There's also a lot of discussion online about the infamous photo number 509 that was deleted. To my understanding, photo 509 is the picture that connects the last normal daytime pictures from April 1st and the mysterious nighttime pictures taken on April 8th. What exactly was captured on photo number 509 or when it was taken is unknown. Some people claim it's part of a cover-up. They suggest that the killer or law enforcement tampered with the camera. Also, a lot of tech experts claim that in order to fully delete a photo from a camera, you would have to connect that camera to a computer and use professional software, because deleting the photo on the camera wouldn't fully delete it from the camera's hard drive, and it could be retrieved later on. So, this suggests that someone had taken the camera while the girls were missing in the jungle, connected the camera to a computer, deleted the photo, and then placed it back in the backpack and potentially left the backpack where it was eventually located. Also, there is a possibility that a rare camera glitch could have occurred, but this detail is highly debated online. And that's pretty much all we have on this case. So, man, what are your initial thoughts about the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon? I know that we covered this case already on a few different occasions, but does this case still surprise you as we move forward and keep returning to it on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always surprised how passionate everybody is about this case because, no secret, of course, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world and there's a lot of mysterious disappearances. Something about this case seems to have caught people's attention in a way that makes them very passionate about it. And I think for that reason, I'm going to put a little bit of a blurb here that, when you and I are discussing stuff, I mean, both you and I have had like, I mean, I'll say my mind has changed kind of back and forth on this case, and every time I get back down the rabbit hole on it, I find myself, initially being pretty skeptical of other explanations other than I guess what we call the prosaic or let's call it the vanilla explanation, right? Two people got lost. Two people got lost. They died in the woods. Their bodies washed up later. Their stuff got found. It's not all neat and tidy like that. There's some weirdness. But then, like as we start to get into these other factors, a lot of people have a lot of interesting ideas. I think it's important when people listen to the episode today, at different times, both you and I might sound like I mean, if we were in England, they'd call it taking the piss, but it almost, I guess I'll call it like devil's advocate, like we're trying to, um, poke holes in the theory or explain why maybe something doesn't catch us a certain way. I can imagine sometimes it's going to make some people feel furious because a lot of people have, um, a lot of kind of emotion invested in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
Within that, yeah.
I understand you completely, man. And I guess just to keep this, uh, case and episode as structured as possible, because believe me, man, I listened to some of our earlier podcast episodes on this case, and they're really like, I'll just say it, like a shit show sometimes, like with everything being all over the place, man. So I was thinking we definitely need to have a better thing here. And one thing I want to mention about this case, personally for me, is that I don't want to go into the whole Juan, uh, album of insane pictures where some people claim that like every single picture that the girls took is completely photoshopped, and like it's such a big like cover up, and like let's not go into the crazy stuff. Let's just literally try to be as objective as possible in this case, and that's the goal, you know what I mean. To be objective, I don't know I don't personally know what happened to the girls. That's why I'm here. That's why I want to find out. I'm not gonna like immediately jump to like, oh, this is a massive cover up, etc., etc. So I guess, yeah.
I mean, one thing, I mean, it's perfect. Yeah, the way you put it, because yeah, I mean, yeah, there's we could and we have spent a lot of time on, I think, fleshing out a lot of those even extensive theories. It probably is useful to look at this thing in terms of a framework of like, maybe three basic sets of theories, right? So one is, like I said, the vanilla, like two young ladies got lost someplace where they didn't live in rugged terrain, died, got found later in pieces. But then the other theories are kind of a variation. I mean, just by exclusion. If one's the accidental theory, then the others are either like a single culprit, murderer, right, of two people, double murderer, or the conspiracy theory, right? And the conspiracy theory, I think, it doesn't have to be any one. A conspiracy theory is just more than one person really conspiring to do something, right? It's not sort of the dirty word that it's turned into, or it's sort of a tarnished term. But you know what I mean? I think from that perspective, it's like, okay, so either they died um, naturally, or well, accidentally, or someone killed them, or a there's a bigger thing. Maybe it's I guess the conspiracy theory doesn't necessarily mean murder, but it means that the truth is being covered up and not being depicted. Does that make sense? From
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
From like the wording standpoint, of course, man. And when we're talking about the conspiracies, one of the obvious reasons why the Panamanian government would be inclined to cover this situation up is because I've read that its tourism in Panama is like it covers around 6% of the GDP. So it's actually a pretty big part of the economy, and Panama is still a developing country, so they need all the money they can get. And obviously, state officials, they don't want anything coming out because they know that, private contracts and shady deals, which, let's face it, there's obviously shady deals happening in Central America in the governments. I mean, they're happening all over the world, so surely they're happening in Panama as well. So the government officials, they would definitely, like something like this hitting the national media, two girls potentially killed by, like, let's say a crazy tour guide, or like some sort of indigenous tribe captured two young Dutch girls and beheaded them and cooked them up and cannibalized them. Like, that's it. Like, Panama is going, like, the tourism is definitely going down the drain. So the officials, if this was, I'm not saying that it was like some sort of a indigenous attack on the girls or anything like that, but if that was the case, I think the government would try to cover up. Like, dude, since you have relatives from Central America and you've been there, I have a question for you. Let's say, in theory, if this was a situation where it was like some sort of a crazy cannibalistic tribe from the jungle that was responsible for the two girls' death, do you think that the government would try everything in their power to cover up, or would they just be open with what they have?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I mean the deaths do happen. So I'll use Belize because it's the only Central American country I've been to, and been to a couple times, and like it happens, like stuff happens to tourists. People do die. They get victimized. Like I said, either I don't think it's so much, and also I say for Belize specifically, it's a little bit different. That I think their countryside and the amount of, I guess, integration of let's say, indigenous peoples into the government has been a little better than some of their neighbors. But let me use, actually, it is a good question, because like things like this do happen though. Now, let me just take the cannibalistic part out of it, because that I think sometimes people get sensationalized about that. There's not really a lot of evidence of cannibalism in this part of Latin America, and in the past few hundred years, not as much, um, but that being said, in terms of some of the scenarios that are going to come up about things happening to visitors, sometimes because of big cultural misunderstandings, sometimes because of rumors that spread like wildfire. This is actually a big problem, where people often are actually super paranoid about human trafficking of all things, and children being kidnapped and stuff like that. Whether that's a legitimate concern, I guess, is interesting discussion. But because of that, sometimes it has happened that people in exactly like almost exactly Kremers and Froon's situation where people actually that came, like often they were missionaries or somebody that came, and a rumor will spread that either the missionaries are here to like sterilize everybody with these fake vaccines. That's one of them, and that's not us saying anything about vaccines. That's saying that that's the lie that gets spread. I mean, many times over the years in parts of the developing world, people get paranoid, and then what happens is like, or the kidnapping children thing, it'll spread, and then what happens is the people get lynched. Like the visiting Westerners, people from the sort of the industrialized world who are there, they end up getting lynched. And one of the times this happened, to finally, I think, put a point to answer your question, Ross. One of the times this happened in Mexico, um, after they figured out that they'd kind of like panicked and like lynched a couple of people and almost killed them, um, they at that point they were like, oh crap, do we like should we have to go kill them anyway because they're going to tell the government on us? You know what I mean? So I
Oh
think
yeah.
what you're proposing, like it isn't even just like, yeah, for sure, it's the government. Like you said, that's 6% of GDP. It's not the most. I mean, I was looking at Panama's GDP, and it's a lot of it is from like the port fees for the canal, and they have like apparently a big boost in copper mining, but their agriculture is not good. So like you said, they're a little bit desperate to get these visitors, and these visitors actually outnumber the residents every year, like by a factor of like 2 or 3. Isn't that interesting? That little country, like all these visitors come, so like more people visit the country than live there
Yeah.
over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, do you think the government would cover up?
Yeah, potentially, but I'm on the fence about it. I guess I think potentially they would, but what I question, and that's I think what maybe one of the premises today is how many hoops the government would jump through, and like what I mean, how and how like detectable it would be. So how professional it would be, I guess it's that how many hoops question, meaning like if you had to do this and that and the other thing, and at some point it's like, wow, this is almost CIA level cover ups. Well, are they capable of it?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's the main thing. And then the second question is, yeah, I mean, would they, if it's too much, or do you just take the hit and say like, we're cracking down on this group, and they need to respect federal authority, and we're going to make sure this never happens to a tourist again, and then you make heroes out of them.
Yeah.
I don't know, because at this point, like it's backfiring, right? If that really happened, it's interesting to think that like we're talking an awful lot. The whole world's talking an awful lot about Panamanian tourism.
Yeah, that's exactly a good point, man. All right, so I think jumping back to like the reason why we're here this week, right, to discuss the expedition that was conducted by Kris from Imperfect Plan, Romaine C, who is another former contributor to our podcast. Actually, he provided us with cool links. He's an aspiring journalist from France. Also, another member of that team was a man named, I forgot his name. I think it was. I think his name was. I don't want to botch it. I want to definitely tell his name correctly. His name was Matt. Yes, exactly. Matt, who is, I believe, a technology and data expert from Canada, and he was the one who helped like organize the information and helped with GPS tracking. He wasn't actually part of this expedition. He was helping the team remotely, and also they had a survivalist, a jungle survival expert, Jan, who's also from France, but I believe he lives in Panama and has his own survival training company where he trains people for survival situations in the jungle. So the team definitely came prepared. They weren't cutting any corners in terms of safety. And I want to jump immediately to a few findings because they're still, by the way, guys, they're still releasing articles on imperfectplan.com as we speak. So there will be more and multiple more articles that will come out over this year, I would assume. But as of right now, we have like at least 6 articles on this expedition, and I've read through them all. And one of the interesting findings that we now have some light brought upon is the detail with the waterfall picture. And everyone who listened to our last episode about Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon's disappearance, you definitely remember the waterfall picture that we can see right now on the screen or on our YouTube channel. It's the picture on the right hand side. So as we can see, there's a picture of a location next to a waterfall, and we can see 4 people in the water. Now these 2 individuals that are in the water, I think one of them was found dead because he had drowned somewhere in Panama, and actually drowned 3 days after the 2 girls disappeared. And in the picture, we can see 2 girls inside of the water next to 2 guys. Now, once again, this picture that we can see right here on the right-hand side was uncovered from a phone of that drowned individual. Now, that guy, there's speculation if he drowned, was he murdered, because there was allegedly no water found in his lungs. Definitely not going to go into that side of the story this week. But the interesting fact is that it was proposed that the 2 girls found in this picture that was located on his phone, we can see these 2 girls right here, that these 2 girls are Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. And I think we looked at these images on the last episode that we did on this case, and it is eerily interesting that one of the girls, namely this girl right here, definitely looks like she has red hair, and Kris Kremers also had red hair, so that's how this kind of picture connects. But now, after this expedition was done, we now have the exact location, because on the left hand side we can see how the location looks. So it's interesting because these guys, they managed to find this area where this area was, and I guess we can talk about if these 2 girls from that original picture from 2014 are actually Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. And, you know, to me, before I found out the location of this picture, I was thinking, damn, there's definitely a high chance that these 2 girls could be the missing Dutch girls, Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. But what actually changed my mind a little bit was when I actually found out where this location is. And as you can see right here on the map, man, this right here is the location of the waterfall picture. And this is boquete right here. This is boquete, where the girls were staying. And, you know, this is where the trail begins. And, you know, we can see that in this trail, you know, backpacks, bodily remains of the girls were found, etc., etc., etc. So the distance, or at least the time that would take you from boquete to the waterfall, is apparently around an hour by vehicle. So, from everything that I've gathered from my research on this case, I didn't really find anything suggesting that when the girls were staying in boquete, they actually went anywhere outside of boquete. You know what I mean? So it would be fairly strange for me to believe that the girls, for one day, for no specific reason, would go to some random waterfall to hang out with some random local dudes. One of the local dudes would be found dead a few days into their disappearance, and they would just return back to boquete, and they would not venture out far away out of boquete ever again. But once again, it's entirely possible. But, you know, do you have any thoughts, and does this make any sense?
Yeah, it makes it's a good I think summary of the issue. I'll say, and this is I think always been the case for this, I never have any degree of confidence in this picture. I think I'll even go so far to say if I had to bet my life on whether that was them in that photo,
Yeah.
I would. That it's not them. that I just, and it's interesting because you know, like you said, people hone in on the red hair. Um, and like, I mean, I don't want to make accusations of, cultural this or racism that. I'll just say that, look, I mean, I know people from Latin America, from that part of Latin America, that have red hair, and I have Central American, I have family members at this point, in-laws, that have red hair like that, um, and skin probably about as fair as mine. Yeah, I think that, so that's one thing. It's just, it could be anybody. But just to your point, yeah, like what are they even doing? That place doesn't even look that nice, honestly. Like that kind of looks like some kind of, from what I've seen in Belize, like who I see swimming in rivers like that is not everybody else. Because you know why? Those rivers aren't really clean necessarily. There's a lot of bacteria and stuff that if you're not a local who kind of grew up in the area and sort of adjusted, um, can end up not not so great if it gets in your mouth. So to me, that looks like a local hangout area, not someplace a tourist would go. I also question, like, to me, it sounded like those, Kris and Lisanne were interacting more with like other expatriates. I mean, yeah, they came there to interact with the culture and do certain things, but I don't know that these two dudes, like who maybe were like, I guess, weren't there allegations that they were gang members?
Yes, there are allegations that they were gang members.
That they were part of the gang, and I think it was like both of them died, right? So one of them drowned pretty soon after this whole thing, and then the other guy died in like a car accident or something, right? Like a
Yeah,
taxi accident.
yeah. Really quickly, one of the
Yeah.
guys that this picture was found on one of the dude's phone. So that dude drowned 3 days into Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon's disappearance. So on April 3rd, 2014, he was found dead, allegedly drowned, but there are some speculation that no water in his lungs were found, and his position that he was found in didn't suggest a natural drowning position. So once again, there's a lot of shady stuff, and the other dude was just apparently died in some sort of a car accident.
Yeah, so it becomes like a big conspiracy theory about like, I guess, that they're like witnesses or participants being eliminated as part of either a cleanup after the fact, like if the government, that would be the conspiracy, right? So let me probably verbalize it. So the conspiracy would be that either they did the murder, um, and then maybe some of their co-conspirators are erasing them, right, to not get found out after the fact, and or the government is also helping, or either erasing them or covering it up. It's an interesting conspiracy. There's definitely there's some excitement to it. But yeah, I don't. I'll say, just to polish off finally to end this little part, my part on this photo. The face shapes also don't look like them to me. I know it's hard to see the shapes of the faces, but honestly, the face shapes look more like the locals, more like the people that live there, and less like these two girls from Northern Europe.
Yeah, and
To
also
me,
I want to say that I'm not even 100% certain that these are girls in the picture. Like, how do we know?
yeah,
You know
you're
what I mean?
right.
Like, how do we know that
Yeah,
these are girls? I mean, they look like they were girls. I would say they definitely look like. I would, if I had to bet, I'd say they are girls. But it's not completely out of the question that they're girls.
actually, even now you say, I mean, it's funny because it can go back and forth, right? Because someone could say, well, um, I'm guessing those two guys probably aren't tall. Just a guess. I don't know. So like, if maybe the Lisa and Kris might have actually been taller than these two guys if they'd ever actually met. Um, but I was noticing that the whoever it is who's like on the of the other two people, the one who's on our right with like kind of probably both hands up, it looks like, arms kind of big, huh? Like it doesn't look like a frail, no, not frail, but it doesn't look like a thinner arm like I would expect from either of the young ladies. Like that arm actually almost looks as thick as the two men with their arms up. Maybe it's just the lighting and the potato cam and everything, but it just was my thought.
Yeah, totally, man. So once again, it's a good thing. Once again, to return here, know that we have the location. The location, if I zoom in, looks like a weird place to hang out. definitely like next to some random bridge an hour drive away from Boquete. And Boquete is already a very rural city in Panama. So even a more rural place in the middle of nowhere, it seems like a bit of a stretch for me. So I will say I don't think that those are the two girls. I think the chances are that they're not. So let's jump. What else I have here? Interesting from the expedition. So we can see one of the bridges, and this is apparently the monkey bridge that the locals would cross. And I've read about a few stories, well, at least one from the articles on the Imperfect Plan of a woman and her kid accidentally slipping away from the monkey bridge, and it was a storm happening, and they died subsequently. So once again, a monkey bridge. There was speculation that maybe the girls were somehow walking on a monkey bridge, and they died because they slipped. And now, if we would zoom into the map here a little bit and check the locations of the Pianista Trail, right? So the Pianista Trail actually, as we can remember, the Pianista Trail begins right here. This is the Pianista Trail. And when they start walking on the Pianista Trail, the girls did reach the Mirador. Mirador is that place where the girls took some pictures, and it's a place where apparently you can see a 360-degree angle of the rainforest, so you can see everything. Now this is the first cable bridge, I think the first monkey bridge. So this is actually quite a bit of distance away, and it's but this is where the girls' other belongings were found. We can see that the jean shorts were found here. Some of the human remains were found here. More human remains are found here, and it's all found next to the Serpent River. We can see that the blue backpack was found here. Alto Romero is an unmapped little village. I'm not sure if it's an indigenous village or a regular village. I'm not really sure. And then lastly, Lisanne's flesh, that boot, was found here. So we can see that the remains, backpacks, shorts, everything is found across the Serpent River. And this river apparently flows to the north. So it, I guess, makes sense, right? Makes sense that the river flows to the north, and that's why we have various remains found to the north from the Mirador. And we know for a fact the girls went and reached the Mirador. So once again, going back to these pictures, going back to the first cable bridge, I mean, personally, I think if I had to cross this and I was lost, I think I wouldn't be crossing it, because let's put it in this way. If I'm lost in the jungle and I can't find my way back, I will definitely remember that on my way to the Mirador, I did not go on any monkey bridges. So why would I, in the hopes of going back to where I came from, would now go on some monkey bridge that I know for a fact I didn't go over this monkey bridge in the first place? Wouldn't this even further make you think that, oh my god, I'm heading in the way wrong direction? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's where I wonder. I wonder about the possibility that, well, two things. One is maybe they weren't thinking straight at that point because there was some, like either there's some kind of time pressure or situational pressure. Either somebody's, like their health is running out, they're losing hit points, or the clock's ticking, it's getting darker. Maybe they thought if they keep pushing on, they could at least get shelter or medical attention. the other direction. But then, like, if you needed medical attention, I don't know if I would see anybody crossing that. Obviously, you can't carry somebody across that. It's interesting looking at that photo. It's almost hard to discern where the bridge is. Is it like got that rope thing in the middle of it?
Yes, it's a weird little bridge, dude, where it's like you walk across this little rope and you hold on to these two little ropes right here.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's and then like then that's to get across that river and then so here's an interesting thing. What happens if you fall in the river and you fall hard?
Die, I believe.
Yeah, you die or you're seriously injured and if you don't have somebody and then you're in like cuz we always talked about like people always wonder how bodies can break apart so quickly in an environment like this. Well, that's like the number one thing that breaks down the environment is water.
But then again, really quickly, this bridge
Yeah.
is here for a reason. It's part of a daily route of multiple indigenous people who come from the
Oh yeah.
jungles to boquete. So they cross this bridge every single day, and I would assume
Oh
at
yeah.
least multiple people do this walk every day. Like indigenous people do this walk every other day. So it's like they're missing there for almost 2 weeks and we still have like cell phones and whatever. So I feel like if they have went missing across this bridge, they would actually stay at this bridge and they would wait for some indigenous person to come over. You know what I mean? There's no reason to not just wait around until someone shows up. If you find this, it's like jackpot. You're pretty much saved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that makes sense. I wonder if they were thinking that rationally or I mean, I guess but my other question is for all that foot traffic, why don't we have a lot more reports of people meeting them on the trail?
Exactly. Well, that's another good point. Like there's the trek is covered a lot, and some people think that if they would have screamed a lot, they would have definitely been rescued. But once again, dude, we're now shifting back to that homicide theory here because this is something that works in favor of the homicide theory. Like they would if they screamed out loud like it was well trafficked, you know what I mean? So I guess we can jump into all of those details later on. I really quickly want to jump through some other assets that I have here. Maybe it will relate to what we're looking at right now. Once again, if everyone who's watching this on the YouTube channel, you can see that the expedition team, they actually found pictures. Well, I'm sorry, they took pictures of places that Kris and Lisanne took pictures of as well, and now we can see the two side-by-side pictures. So this bridge that we can see, Kris Kremers here as well, it's actually fairly close to the trail. This is not even on the trail. This little bridge or this little watery area, this little stream, it's actually pretty close to the beginning of the trek. Another comparison, once again, of the pictures on the left hand side are from the expedition. All the pictures from the right hand side are the pictures that girls took in 2014, April 1st. This is interesting to me. I want to quickly stop to this picture. This is a picture that the expedition team took, and it's actually a picture of a feline animal, okay? A feline animal. There, well, you don't see an animal, but you see tracks, right? Tracks. And I think it's this. I feel like it's this. I think these are like the little. Isn't this like a outline of a paw of a feline animal's paw? You know what I mean? Because I don't really see, but this apparently is supposed to show us like an animal, so maybe gives us an insight into what kind of animals there were, right? Do you see anything interesting in this picture?
Yeah, I think I do see the outline that you're talking about. Does I mean I have a lot of a lot of cat tracks in my yard and other animal tracks, and yeah, that looks pretty much like it. Now I don't know when I was looking at maybe you're about to talk about this. The only kind of two cats. There's only two kinds of cats really that live in that part of the
Oh, I don't.
country there.
I don't
Yeah.
have any information, so please
Okay.
share.
Yeah. So one is it's funny because I've had we've had I think I remember actually mocking someone's statement who said there's no dangerous animals in there. It's like, oh no, well there's a jaguar, and jaguar is actually I think the most dangerous cat, one of the most dangerous wildcats. So yeah, they definitely have jaguars in Central America, and I already related it. I think it's in a previous show that even my own in-laws have had livestock killed by jaguars on their farm, and in fact had to capture one that a jaguar that actually killed somebody later on the nature reserve that it was taken to. So that's what they got for not killing the jaguar, was it killed a human being. So it happens. Jaguars definitely kill people. But then the other one is this other cat. I think it's called like a jaguar Rundi cat or something like that. I can't remember the exact
Yeah,
name.
I actually I have the list. You can continue on. I just quick list of
Yeah,
the animals and predators in the region. Jaguars, which are obviously everyone knows what a jaguar is.
yeah,
Jaguarundi, something like that, is not much bigger than a house cat. It's like a really
yeah.
aggressive big cat. Pit viper snakes, tarantula spiders, and scorpions.
Yeah, and that part is interesting to me because let's keep all that in mind. One of the premises that was sort of about this was that this reward that we mentioned. So there's a $30,000 reward. There was a $30,000 reward for finding any kind of trace of them. And the same article that the people that made the site, they were like, well, wow, that's a ton of money. It is a ton of money, and especially down there, that's like winning. That's like becoming a millionaire in terms of especially to like really impoverished villages. And they were like, well, everybody would be out there looking for them, and they would find it. Why weren't they looking harder? And I thought to myself, well, listen to that list you just gave of stuff in the jungle, and everybody's got a job, right? I mean, a lot of times people don't even really have a real weekend like we kind of have here in the cushy industrialized nations. Like Saturday ain't a day off for a bunch of people in the developing world, um, and maybe not even Sunday. So like first of all, nobody really has a lot of time. But then even if they had time to go in this kind of wild goose chase, like because supposedly they're experts, they are experts in their area. Maybe that's why they don't want to go, because they know that like, hey, I could maybe break my leg and never be found, or I could do my job and not try to chase this pot of gold.
Yeah, no, that makes actual sense. Um, this is an interesting picture. This is an interesting picture because apparently, right, and I found this very interesting. I'm not sure if this picture that we're looking at actually relates to that accident, but this was a picture next to a little write up from the experiences of Romain C., one of the members of the expedition, how he almost literally died by slipping. So, once again, these guys go in there investigating, and I think they're all leaning towards the homicide theory. And it's kind of interesting how one of the dudes literally slips and almost dies on day one of their expedition, I believe. So it's interesting to me that even they would have to like consider that slipping and potentially dying is definitely a possibility here. I want to quickly read the little write-up from imperfectplan.com about this really quickly. If I could just somehow locate it. Oh yeah. One of the members of the expedition team literally almost died after losing traction and slipping off the edge of the trail, but managed to hold on. So I guess this guy was carrying a 25 kilogram backpack, and he was losing traction, and there was an edge, and he was slipping, but he managed to hold on. And if he slipped, he would have fallen, I think, around 20 meters. Which, please, dude, how much meters is in American metric system? Because I know some people are like annoyed when we just do
Oh,
meters.
it. Let's just say that the meters and yards are actually pretty close. I think like 100 yards is like not that far from being 100 meters. I think so. Let's just say, yeah, this is I'm sorry, what was the number again? 20 meters. So let's say
20
20
meters.
yards.
20
Yeah,
yard.
maybe.
20
I don't
meters.
know.
20
What does
meters
that?
like a 6-story building, I feel like 5-story building.
Yeah, let me. While you're talking, off mic, I'll ask one of the digital assistants.
Yeah. Okay, dude. So yeah, Romain C almost slipped, and we can see from this picture the backpack that he was carrying. So once again, want to illustrate the fact that the girls didn't have a lot of gear on them. Romain C had 25 kilograms worth of gear. So I guess you can't really compare the two incidents, but it's definitely possible, right? So
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean, part of me kind of has to wonder, did they see any irony in this? So here they are looking for these answers, and I think they put a lot of effort and they raise money, etc. And there's even kind of requests in the site that if you're interested, they always need more funding. And this is obviously not a for-profit thing, as far as I can tell. This is just really them trying to flesh out the case. But like you said, like the first day they're there, they almost die from a fall. And it's like, yeah, that's the leading theory, right? So wow, and then these two guys that are maybe, I mean, you look at we're going to talk about their equipment in a second, but their equipment looks like expert equipment. They kind of look like they know what they're doing, and even they almost friggin' die, getting there. I mean, it's not a good endorsement for because I saw this a lot, and I apologize if I sound defensive, or like I'm mocking this point of view, but I saw a lot of point of views where they're like, no, this trail is perfectly fine and easy to walk, and locals do it all the time, and you can just hop right up that thing. And I think as we see the footage here that we're going to go into, no, this is the story, the thing you just said on top of it, this is not some easy trail that is all safe, despite what it may have looked like on some of the earlier YouTube footage that I know that we've reviewed that had like the parents, when the parents were walking down the trail and trying to figure out what was going on, etc. Sort of like, I feel like those videos sort of, I don't know, were overly optimistic or sort of like downplayed the danger of the trail. I don't know, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, real quickly, just returning to the 20 meters, it's actually 65 feet. So, so you could actually fall down off an edge and fall down 65 feet.
So pretty close to like you said, like 5 or 6 stories. I mean, that's dead. So imagine that, not even just half that, even a quarter of that. You fall the wrong way in the wrong rock, and there's a lot of wrong rocks on this trail. I mean, this trail, when I was looking at it, that was the thing that really took me back. Like, I know I always talk about my Boy Scouts and Glenn, who cares? But it's like, no, in real life, it is good because we did a lot of hiking. We did a lot of backpacking like this. We'd run a lot of trails. So I've been on a lot of, I guess, Californian trails and a little bit of like Arizona, etc. Like this trail looks extra rugged and extra rocky compared to even some of the really tough trails I've been on.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree. And to answer your question, yeah, I think that the trail is definitely dangerous. We will have those footages shortly. A few other images that I have is, once again, one of the crossings. You know what I mean? Easy place to twist your ankle. Wouldn't you agree? Like a perfect place. Like,
oh yeah, I guarantee it. I mean, I know that was. Yeah. Also, to a previous episode. Yeah. I mean, one time I stupid me. So, I mean, an exact thing like this where I stepped into a stream, thinking I could just trot into it, and I lost my shoe.
yeah.
And then it happened again the next time I did that. Yeah, and I almost broke my ankle, and my leg was up to almost my knee in a stream that was only a foot and a half deep. It looked like. And my leg, it went right into the rocks, and it was all like that, dude. It was like the entire bottom of the stream that was running fairly quickly, and this is a stream that probably runs less quickly than what you're showing me here. Yeah, because what happens is the water actually carves out between the rocks, so the rocks are still there, and they're gradually being worn down over millions of years. But meanwhile, all the sand and sediment, depending how fast it goes, it gets sucked out of there. So it's almost like the rocks become like a giant cup holder for your leg.
Yeah.
And then, as soon as you try to twist or get if you fall in there, you just break your leg or you break your ankle.
Damn. Okay, a few more pictures. By the way, this is Jan. On the right-hand side, we see Jan. This is the expert survivalist that apparently was very helpful. We can see the back of Romain. This is Romain C, one of the dudes that actually is this guy is really cool. Like this guy on the left is a really, really cool dude. And he has a YouTube channel where he literally walked across the entire route that the girls would have taken. So this is actually golden video, golden footage that Romain C retrieved from this expedition. Like this dude is actually amazing. So once again, everyone could jump to his YouTube channel, and I think we'll still jump to it on this show as well. But everyone go to his channel and like subscribe, and he's gonna be posting more footage from this case. So once again, Romain C, definitely an awesome dude right here. This is a picture of Kris. Okay, so once again, going back to the injuries, Kris, the main author of Imperfect Plan.com, I think the website owner, this is his injury from the trip, and he slipped and he like crashed a little bit one of his legs. So Romain almost dies, and then Kris comes back with a pretty like a serious injury, not super serious. They continued their expedition, but we can see that Kris also had an injury. So we have two people on this trip like having like not great time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's a bad little it's like scratch and contusion there. I don't imagine that felt very good for the rest of the trip,
And
especially if he was walking that thing.
He got lucky. I feel like this is still lucky.
Oh
I feel like this is lucky.
Oh yeah, this is like this is just a warning.
Yeah, this is just a warning. Like, be careful, because and these guys were, once again, I can't stress this enough, super prepared. Even hired a survival expert, still got banged up. The two girls, they brought like a one small water bottle with them.
You know what? Actually, that was one of the things. Maybe this is a good opportunity for it, because I think it's in some of the pictures of them doing the trip. That's one of the things I was impressed with. I mean, I when I was doing the research, you can get passionate about stuff where you're like, you find something that really, maybe it's my own cognitive bias, something that favors my point of view on something, and I'm so excited, and I'm looking at this. So I'm looking at these pictures of, there's like these pictures, I think, from the trip where they're walking down the trail. It's from I think one of the most recent articles. It's also in my research in the outline. But anyway, I'll just vamp about it. So yeah, I mean, when you look at what they're wearing like long pants and thick pants that look like they're like army fatigue pants, or maybe even a thicker material. I had a coworker who wore these pants that were made out of like
this picture,
yeah, dude. There's like a little advertisement. This one coworker had these pants that are made out of like fire hose material. You know what I mean? Like extra strong canvas and stuff, and that's almost like some of the kind of stuff they look like they're wearing. But yeah, I mean, so in some of the other pictures where they're hiking around, and they're wearing like these huge backpacks, and maybe we'll also bring it in post production later. But yeah, and a lot of this footage and some of the articles that shows them tromping through the woods. Yeah, exactly. Look, machetes. They're clearing them. They mentioned a lot of times for these camping sites, they had to spend an hour clearing brush from from wherever they camped, just for hammocks. They weren't even going to be on the ground, so it took them an hour just to clear out enough brush to find hammocks, to find a place to hang the hammocks in the places they were going. So they weren't even on the ground. So they weren't even setting up tents. They were setting up something that was just not traditional. Yeah, they're carrying a lot of stuff, and true enough, the time, while their trip, of course, was extra deliberate, and by deliberate I really mean like they deliberately planned and had a time frame, and they planned for that time frame appropriately. But they are dressed in layers. They brought, I'm sure, a ton of water and had water purification stuff with them, so that you don't have to carry in all your water, because water is so heavy. And I'm sure they had, a good amount of food, etc., first aid stuff. Let's contrast this with exactly what you were saying. When you look at like what Kris and Lisanne
Romaine.
we're gonna do. Yeah,
Oh yeah, sorry, Kris Kremers and yeah, not the Chris from
yeah,
Imperfect Plan, but Chris
yeah. Sorry,
and
sorry. Yeah,
no,
yep,
no, no,
yep.
it's okay.
Sorry. Yeah, yeah. For the yeah the
Chris Kremers and Lisanne
yeah
Froon.
Kris Kremers. Yeah, they were. I mean, I know we've gone on about it a lot, but it still it still flattens me. I was trying to figure out like another way to say it, and I was like, you know what? I bet you that even if you were like, I mean, I hate to say this because sometimes it sounds so stupid. People are like, "What do you know about it?" Okay, look, I really like I have actually studied like a lot about different stuff like this, and I would say that even when I've read about like Green Berets and Army Rangers and Navy SEALs and stuff like that, I think even like an Army Ranger who was like looking for something super exciting to risk their life on would find it maybe ill-advised to do this trip without water and what you know what I mean. Like there's just people that love to push themselves and say, what can I do? Can I do 40 miles in a day or something crazy like that? And I think even those people for this kind of trail, like it's too much, dude. Between the rocks and the elevation and like the weird cold, because apparently there's almost no light. It's very wet. It's very it can get the temperature can drop. Obviously with the elevation, temperature drops anyway. Um, I just think like the whole thing was like, gosh, it seems like you're already, even without conspiracies and murderers and other things that might happen that do happen, it was already a massive roll of the dice.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like, I mean, they didn't need any help to get killed in the jungle. You know what I mean? I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and let's just jump through some more images. Once again, a spider image that these people captured, and they said that they would find these massive, like like a hand-sized, uh, like tarantulas all over the place. Once again, very spooky place to be lost in the jungle. Now this is the interesting part. One of the very cool things that the expedition did, and I think this is genius on their part. How genius is Kris and the guys from Imperfect Plan? They bought the same exact camera, the Canon PowerShot, and by the way, a disclaimer: the pictures on the right are nighttime pictures from Lisanne's camera, and the pictures on the left are the pictures that the crew from Imperfect Plan took. So we can see that they took the same exact camera, and at nighttime they took pictures. Now, the pictures that they took are not from the same location where the nighttime pictures were taken. From my understanding, they did not locate the location where the nighttime pictures were taken on Lisanne's camera. But they found similar locations and they took pictures at nighttime just so that they could compare them. So, once again, the picture on the left is from the expedition, the picture on the right is an actual nighttime picture from Lisanne Froon's camera. So we have a few of these comparisons. Once again, picture on the left is from the expedition, picture on the right is the actual picture from the camera, and lastly, this picture as well. These pictures are very alike. You know what I mean? That we can compare here. And yeah, dude, any thoughts? I feel like they managed to replicate the pictures fairly well. You know?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, this was one of the big puzzly pieces, right? Because seldom do you have. There's, I guess, an amazing thing. You have a case where people actually took pictures in the middle of their emergency. Maybe something. Pictures were. I guess. Well, I don't know who took the pictures. The pictures were taken by a device in the middle of this period. I'm kind of flabbergasted. Just so I make just so I understand this correctly, these little kind of dot globy things, which I think are like dust and moisture and stuff like that, depending on whether your flash went off. So that appears in both sets of photos, right?
Yes,
Depending on okay,
yes,
right,
and I actually tried to figure this out. What exactly this is now? people from imperfectplan.com, they said that they will release a subsequent article and they will do a very thorough analysis and comparison of their pictures and the pictures that were found on Lisanne's camera. So this is just the initial few pictures that they have released. These are the only pictures that we really have, to be honest. So these are the ones that I grabbed. So they didn't provide us with an explanation of what exactly these little dots are, but you can see that they appear in both sets of pictures. They appeared in the expedition pictures, but they also appeared in the pictures that were taken on Lisanne's camera as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, what a good job they did matching. I mean, the effort. But from this point of view, it's funny because I don't know that this was their intent. But from my point of view, I don't know. I'm still leaning pretty heavily towards the accident. Maybe actually because of these photos, because it's not as mysterious, the origins. Now it doesn't answer a lot of other aspects. So maybe that's
Well,
not a true. Yeah.
just to quickly step in, when the guys from Imperfect Plan were taking these pictures, I don't think these were like normal your walk in the park type of pictures. I'll just take a picture there, I'll just take a picture here. What they actually did, they tried to replicate the angles as well. So I don't really know how they were taken, but I wouldn't be so sure that these are just pictures that are taken from a normal angle. I think they may have like tried to replicate the angles, and what I'm trying to say here is that these pictures that the expedition took, they were not necessarily taken from a normal angle that a person would take a picture. Maybe they were laying on the ground, like crouching a little bit in a weird manner, just to replicate the angle. So I will not say that, I think
Yeah.
they
No,
they maybe try to make them weird-ish like that,
which is no, that's a good distinction. So which is I think exactly what they should have done. But I think that's a good lead in actually to if you click on those articles that I think it's like the second or third link I have
All right.
from the site. Just because there's a bunch of good pictures of them. I think it's actually probably the same one. There's a couple pictures that show them at the bottom
I have this article right here.
of a crevasse. I think if we scroll down,
But this is probably not it, right?
this is the one with the videos. So maybe it's the one after that. There's another. There's one that has a bunch of. Maybe it's the same one you got the stills from. There's the one with a bunch of stills of them. Yeah, if we keep going through there, okay, they're perfect. So if you look, especially as we get deeper into there, and they start walking in like these kind of crevassey parts of it. So there's one where it's like the
Oh, these are here.
yeah. So I'm trying to remember where it was in the article. There's a picture, and maybe we find it in post production. There's a picture where they're walking in those really dark, literally at the bottom of a valley that has been like a tiny valley, like not really like a little chasm that is basically carved by water.
This?
Right, like this is. Yes, that kind of thing. And there's a couple photos of them doing that, I think. There's a couple photos where you see like the guy in the backpack. I mean, yeah, that's perfect case in point. So to me, when I see that photo, I'm like, here's the scenario. I always see the scenario in my head. Maybe I'm remote viewing. No, but I always see this I always see the scenario in my head where somebody twisted their ankle, got hurt, they're disoriented, they ran out of water, they don't have food, temperature's down, and then could you? Here's my question: if you're in there, and this is the first time you've ever been there, right? That trail. In the morning, do you even know which way is which? At night, do you know which? You know what I mean? Like you wake up, do you even know which way you were going before?
Good point. It's like a maze. It's like a maze.
Yeah. There's no visual. I mean, and there's not even. I mean, I don't even know that you can see the stars or the sun that well, especially if you're not really trained on how to do that. To orient yourself, and even if you were, they're from a different part of the globe, right? So let's say they were in Girl Scouts or something in the Netherlands where they're from, and they learned how to orient off of the North Star, this and that. Well, if you're in a different part of the world now, and the things are kind of in different places, some things still are the same, But it's a little bit different. It's enough that like it could throw you off, even if you could see the sky,
That's a
which you
good point.
can't.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. I didn't really think about it. Yeah, because both places look, especially if you're going there for the first time, I think you could easily get confused and even forget which places, which direction leads where.
And then to me, it's always like, because that was always the question about those photos, like a lot of the ones they tried to imitate with the angles, where it's like people say, well, what is this? What are we even seeing? To me, what we're seeing is the camera pointing, well, at least in some of the photos, the original photos, is that the camera is pointing up. And that's why the plants look a certain way, because, plants don't necessarily grow underneath rocks. Well, they might drape on top of them, etc. So, like a lot of this, and once again, confirmation bias for sure with how I take this. But I think that's what I see when I see these photos, and when I see the path that they took. I just keep on seeing all these hazards that, like in my mind, overlap with the evidence. You know what I mean? So like I'm saying, I see something, and then I look at like what
Like
happened.
these, right?
Yeah, where you're just like okay, yeah, that seems to.
So they're taking a picture from the bottom looking up, right? They're at the bottom and they're
Yeah.
looking up on a cliff. That's what you're saying, because these plants would not grow on the bottom of this rock, right?
And then how do you even get out of there? Like, here's the thing: I could see somebody accidentally following, because I think at some point it's the trail, and then some point it's not the trail anymore, and the stream still goes one direction, and then maybe the way you're supposed to go goes another direction. I could. How do you even get out of it when it's over your head? First of all, so when when you're in that chasm and the thing's like 10 feet up, well, how are you going to get out of that? And then you figure, oh, I'm going to follow it this direction or that direction. I think you could end up taking a wrong direction pretty deep into the jungle, and then it's all over at that point.
Yeah, totally, man. I totally agree with you on that. Another few pictures. This is another picture of a different monkey bridge. Once again, these bridges look like they're deadly. One wrong move, you're out. If this is a storm or something like that.
They look like a Marine Corps challenge course sometimes, like those different you see it where
Yeah,
they have to like climb, crawl across the rope. That's what it kind of reminds me of.
yeah, totally. A few other images. I don't think these images. Well, this is just a few other things that I included in the assets. Uh, Pelvic bone. Once again, Kris Kremers' pelvic bone is found, but only one piece of the pelvic bone. So I guess there was a discussion. What exactly could naturally split the pelvic bone in half, and then where is the other pelvic bone then? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on, because Kris Kremers' pelvic bone was located 5 months after their disappearance, and it was bleached, and it looked like it was tampered with by lime, and lime is not found naturally in Panama, so, or at least in that area. So what exactly could have split, do you think, the pelvic bone in half? Do you have any ideas, man?
Yeah, I mean, the short version would be, just the power of water and the elements can be pretty significant. It's interesting because what I always get real cautious when I hear universal statements, and this wasn't from you. This was from the summary, the summary article, which we both really liked. And which you specifically recommended to me because it was such a great sort of capstone list of all the work that these guys had done. Um, yeah, they had a lot of universal stuff where I was like, I don't know that that some of the stuff that was said could go unchallenged. Where they're like, well, there's no lime here, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Or look like it was bleached with lime, like lime or something like that. But then it was kind of, you know what I mean? It was almost taken like, well, that's what it is for sure. When whether it was that or whether it was like, well, no force can break these bones open like that. It was a lot of things where like, I don't know. Whenever I hear something like that something's impossible, it very often turns out that what people didn't expect to happen, um, did in fact happen. That like
And
there was yeah
dude, I feel you. I feel you on the whole
yeah
limestone situation. I completely feel you. But the more creepy situation for me
like
was
DNA and stuff. Yeah.
not necessarily the
Okay.
bleaching of the pelvic bone, but the fact that none of the bones had any scratches, and like forensic analysts in Panama, they stated that any bones traveling through the river would at least have micro abrasions, but these bones had no scratches, and I think not even micro abrasions, and that was definitely weird. Now, I would like to see the bones, you know what I mean? And I would like to look at them through a microscope and check if there aren't any micro abrasions, because I didn't see them, but the reports are coming out that there are no micro abrasions on the bones.
That's so weird when they say that because I'm like, but they were found in the river, so shouldn't they? I mean, even if they were planted there, if they were planted and found there, shouldn't they? Shouldn't there be microabrasions from that, from
That's
the
a good point.
planting process?
That's a
Yeah,
good
that.
point. That's a
I
good point.
mean, being all the things that they've described how it was. Because I hear the no scratches on bones thing, so they're looking for. They're like, okay, if a jaguar ate somebody, it leaves some pretty obvious signs, I guess, if the jaguar's been chewing on that specific bone and, just stripping the meat off. What I gotta wonder is when people say, well, a human did it, well, what? Like the thing that they did didn't leave a sign? I mean, if it was a gun or something, but then they're talking about how the indigenous tribe thing again, that was one of the cases they gave was that somebody, this tribe had kind of, long story short, they'd kind of fallen into some kind of culty beliefs that ended up with them killing a lot of their their friends and family and chopping them up. And I'm like, well, doesn't chopping them up with a machete leave marks in the bones too? Like there should be. I mean, that seems way worse. You know what I mean? Like they're looking for these little micro scratches, and I'm like, well, where's the machete marks?
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
but
where's all this other stuff or anything? There's not even a machete, but you know what I mean. Whether it's a rock, a hammer, a vise, a saw, metal, all these things. My big issue with this, and then I won't even get to the DNA part yet.
of course.
My big issue is, oh, sorry, maybe I'm jumping the gun here. I guess my issue is why let the bones be found at all?
Why let the bone? Yeah, exactly. To potentially close off the case and collect the
Yeah,
30,000. You know, the collection of the rents of the
yeah,
money, the reward money.
maybe, maybe it's not that's something where I would say, well, that's not impossible. That might be a reason. Now it is opening themselves up to risk. It's funny because like that was I guess the other thing that I had. The frustration I had with this list was that sometimes they would say like, well, these people, whoever these people are, right? I don't mean that. I mean that like the people that are alleged to have done something. They will, on one hand, be alleged to have done very complicated, let's say, bleaching of bones and staging of evidence, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, but they're really not that sophisticated about doing other things, or like would do something really obvious, one of the allegations was, oh, they would never they would never take a phone because criminals don't like phones. And I thought, well, okay, well, this isn't Goodfellas. In like the first 10 minutes, yeah, it's true. Like crime figures generally are suspicious of it. I can tell you there's a lot of criminals with phones, and they use phones all the time despite all the hazards to their occupation. I don't know. It's like, it's weird. It's weird to me to suddenly think that, like, the mixture, I guess, of like motives and sophistication seems odd to me, because that was another thing that was alleging that like people would look at YouTube and learn how to do sophisticated faking of evidence. And once
Mm.
again, it's not impossible. We've for sure seen people learn awesome things on YouTube and other social media, but it's like a stretch a little bit. Okay,
Yeah.
I think I probably went a little further than you want to talk
No, no,
about,
no,
but
no, no. It's perfectly fine. But I just want to say that the whole theory with the bones, it's even way deeper, and you could actually read it on imperfectplan.com. It's like a very extensive research done by Chris, the moderator of that website. if we would stay at the bones, we could also bring up the fact that Lisanne Froon's bones were found. Well, her foot was found inside of her boot, and apparently it still had flesh on it, while Kris Kremers' bones were completely bleached, and it seemed like the decomposition rates of both bones were not on par. And then the dudes from Imperfect Plan, they try to analyze if there is a reasonable expectation for bones to decompose at different rates in different environments. For example, if one of the bones is in the water and the other bone is outside of the water, would the decomposition rates differ? And it's like very scientific out there. So I definitely want to avoid this line of thinking, because it's just gonna end us. It will just put us in a
Yeah, I mean, I'll even say that, what happens to bodies is not as intuitive as it would seem, to the point that I think we mentioned this before. There's the FBI has essentially like a body garden, where they take like donated medical corpses and they leave them like on this one property in different states of like burial, and because they don't know. Ultimately, they're like, "Hey, what really happens? Like, we think this is what happens, but what happens if a body is left half out of the ground for like a month?
exactly.
What's it gonna look like? What's the part under the ground gonna look like? Like, it's almost exactly your example. Like, yeah, because they don't know, and maybe they have a theory, but then the thing that they thought made sense
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen that way, and that changes like the whole story, right? Because if somebody finds something, case in point, which you just quoted, and people make some broad or very people make some very definite conclusions sometimes off of things that maybe
Mm-hmm.
the science isn't entirely settled yet.
That's a good point. That's also true. You know what I mean. But once again, definitely want to pass up on that. Once again, this is another interesting infographic here. That illustrates that image 509 was missing. For everyone who forgot the whole story about 509, image 509, we can see that these images right here, for anyone who's still on the YouTube channel or whatever you're looking at it, these images, this set of images right here, these are the normal daytime images. We can see that all of them are from April 1st. By the way, don't mind 2013. It's just the way that the camera was taking the images. It's actually 2014. So yeah, April 1st, and then these pictures are already of April 8th, but we have a missing image 509. An image 509 would be something that would bridge the two sets of images, because these images on the bottom right here, these are the beginning of the creepy nighttime pictures, and one of the image 509 that was supposed to bridge the two images is missing. And apparently the phone was the camera had to have been connected to a computer for this image to be completely wiped off, because if you just delete it on the camera itself, it will be able to be retrievable by experts, but it was completely wiped out using special software. So, but I think there's also some sort of a glitch, a rare glitch that could have happened. Once again, definitely don't want to stay here for too long, dude, unless you have something to say about this picture, because this is once again like something that we cannot clarify. We just cannot.
Yeah, I'll just say, I'll leave it at, I think it's a fascinating rabbit hole. When we went down it on the other episodes, and it's worth re-listening to those episodes, because they really did flesh that out. I'm on the fence about it. I don't, the camera stuff was so interesting with what's been alleged about the technology and what it would take, and that's, to me, out of all the things, it's almost like this one file thing, more than all the photoshopping allegations and shadows and all that. This is the one that I think maybe is the clearest indication that something was tampered with after the fact. What the motive was, I'm not sure.
Yeah, me neither. And the motives could could go in a million different directions, right? And I think that's it. That's pretty much it. All I had on the thing on our visual assets. The one thing I really wanted to bring up still, and maybe for everyone who's really interested in this case, Romain C has a YouTube channel, and we'll definitely link his YouTube channel in the description of this podcast. You could actually find it, and he has made the entire trek. Okay, he has done the entire trek by himself that the girls would have had to take. We could see just a little bit. I'm just gonna go through it, and dude, people are listening to this podcast on the podcast apps. So could you describe what we're seeing right now? These are the initial parts where he's just approaching the trail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's already think of a really rural dirt roads, houses. I mean like rocks and stuff. The houses that are next door are just farms and little dwellings, maybe laundry out. But the one thing that strikes me is, I mean, it's almost like you can't see a picture without a big massive rock in the middle of the road. And just think, these are the easy rocks. These are the flat ones that have been worn down by people walking on them, by water. They've been at the bottom of the hill a long time. You know what I mean? They've kind of been worn down by even vehicles and stuff. They're getting broken down. Maybe people have even taken
The
some of the
bridge.
best rocks. Yeah. I mean, people also build walls out of rocks too, right? So a sharp rock is actually better sometimes for your wall because you can use it to fill in a hole if you've got a bunch of flat rocks and you've got like a spot. Anyway, yeah. But then as the trail goes longer, it's it starts narrowing. I've noticed. I mean, it's kind of back and forth, but the rocks start getting more and more significant. Now, this rock thing I keep on going on about, the reason why it scares me is when you fall down on a rock like that, it's almost worse than getting punched with or hit with a sledgehammer. Your whole body weight, or it's about the same. Your body weight falls on it awkwardly. Yesterday, when I was watering my plants in my backyard, the stupid hose always gets hung up on sprinklers, and I fell over backwards. As an adult, I don't usually fall down, hard. And I fell down so hard. I fell down on this huge tree stump we have. It's a giant tree stump. It's about 4 or 5 feet across.
Cattle.
And it's
as
flat,
well.
and I didn't expect it. And I fell. And mind you, this isn't even concrete, right? This thing. It's a weird shape, but it wasn't jutting up. For a minute, I yelled out. I thought I was gonna be seriously hurt. I thought I was gonna
Oh wow.
Break a pelvis or something else. I mean, I felt okay, but for a couple seconds, I kind of just sat there and kind of collected myself and tried to figure out what was going on. When I look at all these rocky stuff, and I look at the elevation, and I look at
Do you just really quickly want to step in? We are now only at the very entrance of the jungle. So this was just the good
grassy,
part.
yeah.
This was just the good part. The next video.
Yeah, that wasn't even like the lobby, the lobby of the trail, right? That was the
This is where things get really cracking right here, man.
Yeah.
Let's do it like this, man. Let's see. This is the beginning. So this is where the jungle begins, you know?
Yeah, and this is where it got. On one hand, it's really interesting. It does seem like it'd be a really cool trail. The snakes and stuff sound scary, but I mean, there's snakes everywhere. Tarantulas, same thing. I mean, there's tarantulas here in California. Just I never see them, but if it's cool that they were seeing them. I mean, I wouldn't want one in my shoe. But I think even tarantulas are scared of people and stuff. They're not going to mess with you. But yeah, when you look at at this point of the trail, I mean, it's a lot more congested. There's a lot of growth adjacent to it. It's not that horrible. There's tree roots and stuff crossing, but then now you're getting into you better have boots on. You better have boots with good treads.
Ooh.
And maybe, I mean, I almost see trails like this. I'm like, maybe you should have gloves in case you have to touch the ground and you know what I mean? Kind of use your hands to keep your center of balance right. Cause when I look at this stuff, it's and once again, this isn't even the bad part of the trail. This is still, if like what we were talking about before was the lobby, this is like maybe the hallway.
Oh, but this is getting more serious now.
Yeah, it gets more serious. And then, we're starting to gain more elevation. And when you make a trail up a mountain,
Ooh, look at this, man.
like when you have a trail going up a mountain, you can't just go straight. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing like boulders that are the size of like half a car.
Yeah.
That are part of the trail you're supposed to walk on. They're sloped. Oh, sloped rocks, dirt. If it's wet at all, it's
you
going to be slippery.
Fall down. You can fall down on the right hand side. You're a goner.
You can fall right off the trail. I mean, and it's like it's a steep hill. So that's the thing. It's important to point out when you have a trail going up a steep hill, it's something called a switchback where it goes back. You know what I mean? Like you can't when it's too steep to go in a straight line. Well, you have a lot of lines that go back and forth. The zigzags up the mountain, right? Those are called switchbacks. And like there's just switchbacks and rocks and steps, and I mean this is a hell of a workout.
Sorry, dude, for a quick stop here. See, even Romain, who took this video, he now illustrates that I think this area right here, you slip down here, you're dead. Like this is like a no-go zone down there.
Yeah.
Like, you will not have a great time. You know what I mean?
I hate trails like that, man. I did that one time in Grand Canyon where it was like thin like that, and you just look down to the left, and it just went down like 60, 70 feet. And this one part we were in. And that's not even like the tall part, right? But yeah, it's real freaky to think that like, yeah, one wrong slip and then, and it's a mess. And then what, right? And then, oh, by the way, let's suppose one of you slips down the hill.
Look at this, man. On the left.
What does the other person do, right?
Exactly.
So if one of you slips down the hill, do you then also risk your life to try to give your friend medical aid and see if they're still alive? Or do you know what I mean? Or do you immediately try to get help, leaving them maybe dead or dying? You know what I mean? It's almost like a no-win situation. So already it's messed up. If one of you falls down there, it's almost like both of you fell down. You know what I mean? If you had 3 people or 4 people, you'd be able to spread the risk and you could do a lot of things at once. But when you have only one other person, it's almost like you barely have another person there because that other person is going to be taking care of you.
Oh yeah, and look, man, look at what we're seeing right now. This is like foot breaking 101, like how to break your feet. Look, oh my god.
When I look at these pictures, I want to be wearing boots. You know what I mean? All I can do, and the weird thing is, dude, I think like until like maybe the past 10 years or past few years where I went back and did some of this stuff as like an older adult. Like when I was a much younger man, and like a teenager, I wasn't afraid of breaking my ankle. I would see stuff like this, and I'm like, that's normal. That's normal for me as like an active Boy Scout, jumping around, running around, because you kind of think you're invincible. You haven't really, maybe fallen down enough. But now that I'm older and I'm like, oh no, that sucks. It sucks when you hurt something or, you realize kind of the consequences. This looks way more dangerous.
I just want to quickly step in here, dude. Sorry, I would just want to say that for all the people or all the write-ups that made it seem like this is such a straightforward, nothing can go wrong type of a trail, the Pianista trail, I would suggest watching Romain C's his footage and I mean, make of it what you will. I mean, to me, it looks like a workout and a dangerous workout.
I mean, I will say that if you have a guide, like a local guide who's like, I don't know if would they need to be certified or reviewed well or whatever. If you have a local guide and like a decent sized party of people and the right equipment, so like footwear, layers, water, especially water. I mean, I would say it looks, looking at that hike and how it's described, to me it sounds like a 2 to 3 water bottle kind of trip per person. Maybe, and I drink a lot of water, so maybe that's a little high, but yeah, between that and just I mean, you better have like some boots with some really good ankle support. But then again, like the whole point of the ankle support is you kind of like, instead of breaking your ankle, you fall, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
And you have, just like high top shoes, right? the point of high top basketball shoes is so you don't break your ankles and you fall instead. But then if you fall, you might die. So isn't that weird to think that if you break your ankle here, it might actually be better than the alternative? But obviously that's not the footwear choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting too because it's like the whole point of this trail is to have a view, but then some good amount of your hike is actually not having a view. There's a hike like that here that we used to do, and it's kind of dreary, dude. So it's funny, like a hike like this, when you're up high in the mountains, it's great, and then like when you're tromping down in like a river or riverbed, or kind of in the valley, it's fun for about half an hour, and then it gets real boring.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, that being said, I mean, I would like to do this. I mean, having talked about it so much now, I almost like if I was ever near there again, yeah, if I went to Panama, I think I would want to try it at this point. I mean,
Oh,
I
I'm
think
definitely going.
we have to do it for the show at this point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it would kind of would be a crime against our fan base for us not to to do it at that point. But yeah, food for thought, man.
Yeah, totally. Just to give you
Yeah,
a few seconds to catch your breath, man. As we can see now on this fourth installment of these videos, we can see now the ground is very muddy. So trekking through the ground becomes fairly difficult because there's a lot of mud. But this is the approach to the Mirador. So Romain see in this last fourth video that he took, he will now approach. He will now approach the Mirador, and the girls did reach the Mirador. So once again, to give some perspective, the girls, at least we know for a fact that they at least completed this trek and were completely fine, to what we understand, because they took pictures on the Mirador. This crazy difficult trek that we saw, they completed it at least going up, but then on the way down, something may have gotten bad.
I just want to interject that this. I mean, literally the part you've been showing that, which is it's interesting. That's the part that's like right near what should have been the end of their trip, or the midpoint, right? The part where you turn back. It's brutal. I mean, only now are we finally seeing a part where not every square inch is covered with like a foot of just fist to head sized jagged rocks. That was all the trail was for it looked like, I don't know, hundreds of yards or meters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just, I mean, that the last part, you were just, if your ankles don't feel like crap at the end of this hike, I mean, I feel like unless you've been doing a lot of hiking and stuff, and maybe mountain climbing or something, rock climbing, I feel like you're going to be real sore off of this, not just for the normal hiking muscles, but like all the stabilizing muscles, like your ankles and your knees and your back, and you know what I mean, and your calves and stuff. There's like a lot of like not normal hiking muscle movement going on here.
Yeah, now Romain has finally reached the Mirador, and interesting point here. I'll try to see if I can actually cap. Oh, perfect. See on the Mirador, dude. I mean, he's gonna look back. See the just because of the sun, we can't really see. But this is a memorial for Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. On the very top of the Mirador, after you complete the trek, you can see this memorial for the two girls. And this is basically just getting to the Mirador. Now, once the girls got to the Mirador and took those selfies and pictures, then it's a question whether or not they turned back or whether or not they continued heading more into the southern part of into the northern part over the Mirador. And Romain actually even did a video how the other part of the Mirador looks. So he actually went for hours even north of the Mirador, and let me tell you, it doesn't get any better from what I'm seeing right now. It looks just as dangerous. The jungle looks very dangerous, but we know that the girls at least completed the trip once. So I don't want to go through all of that because, it's just, I guess people will be better to evaluate this, especially the listeners on the podcast, if they actually go to Romain C's YouTube channel that we will leave in the description and evaluate the footage for themselves. Once again, Romain C, thank you very much for this amazing footage that you've taken and for making us, understand about the case way more. So, so I guess that's jumping to that, and it's been a bit of a marathon in this case, right? For us, dude. Anything you wanna discuss before I guess we kind of conclude and think about what if our theories changed or anything like that? Anything we missed or anything you had prepared?
No, I think I just wanted to echo the same thing. That this is what a great resource. I mean, it's always been for the show, and I know that Romain has written to us, giving us advice and feedback and stuff on what he's found, and we've really appreciated it. So yeah, I mean, I do hope everybody either listening to the podcast goes and looks up the YouTube video, where we link to the article and the videos, or actually just finds the videos also on their own if that's what they want. And from that perspective, I will say that looking at that trail and just the last little notice, it looks bewildering. I get that, like when you use a certain kind of camera, like a macro lens, it can kind of distort how the place looks. But from what I just saw, from my perspective, it would be really easy to get lost, unless you were with somebody that knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
Despite sort of like, well, we've heard the opposite a lot, but when you look at it for real,
yeah.
it's like it's just a green mess either way.
Yeah. And man, now it's time for the golden question. Did the information and the footage that we reviewed in this episode of the case, did it change your mind on the Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon's disappearance? Did it change your position at all? And which way are you still leaning at this point in this case? Do you think it's an accident or do you think there's foul play involved in their disappearance?
Man, I'll say I'm even more convinced now. Probably, I'm even going to contradict myself from previous episodes. I'm even more convinced now that it was an accident. Um, I'm not convinced that there wasn't some kind of funny business. Not funny,
With the backpack being left.
with yeah, between the photos and the backpack and the folded clothes and the condition of the cameras and the yeah, it's weird. And I know I've given different rationales and stuff, like maybe local people being respectful of other people's belongings or not wanting to suddenly realizing it was important stuff and trying to, you know what I mean? It may not be what it seems, I guess. As in, it just may be somebody made a mistake and they tried to fix it and they made it look even worse. That's one theory, but yeah. Anyway, that long story short, too late. Yeah, I think to me, I look at it and I'm like 90%. This is an accident, and whether there was some kind of conspiracy to cover up anything, maybe 25% chance of that.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of in agreement here. I still think I'm undecided, to be honest, because there are very strange details in this case, mainly the backpack being located and someone clearly placed the backpack there. The bone situations having no abrasions, that's very odd. The fact that there were more bones left in the area of other people, like at least 3 other individuals. So whose bones are those? So there's like a bunch of like shaky, flaky things here. And I will say, in my opinion, it could go either way, but I will say after looking at the footage, the only thing I will conclude with this week is that after looking at the footage, I think that I now think that it's way easier to have an accident on that trail than I thought before I reviewed this footage. So that's the only thing it's changed. Maybe I'm also like now pushing more closer to the accident theory for sure, than I was before. So, but I'm definitely open to any ideas. Dude, before we sign out, anything you want to mention to our audience members?
And just thank you so much for all the great comments every week this week. Great feedback. We have some interesting ideas for future topics, and I mean, even today I saw some cool stuff. Literally, even while we were talking, I keep on seeing cool stuff on Reddit. Oh, I know the other thing I wanted to say. So in the past, I've sort of once in a while I'll point out like a tools that I like to use for research or keeping track of like mysteries, like Google Alerts. News Alerts was the one I use all the time for keeping track of things. So that we know when something changes. The other thing I love it so much is Reddit, and the reason why I love Reddit is Reddit takes all the stuff that you usually have to go to other sites for. They have a subreddit for everything. We weren't paid by Reddit. This is just my free little shout out to them. But I think one of the greatest things is in the near future, you and I have a video that we've talked about that shows a I want to tease this video a little bit. That shows, I don't know if it's real or not, but it purports to show an attempted kidnapping of a minor. It looks like of a little girl. Actually, it looks like in Latin America by human traffickers, and it's a fascinating video. I think we don't have time to review it today, but when we do, it's like another good example where like I would not have seen this thing if I hadn't subscribed to all these different things on Reddit. I might be the last person to discover Reddit, but I'm just so impressed, I think, sometimes by the sheer amount of content that's there and what you can explore. And in fact, you asked, this was how you and I even met, was through Reddit.
Yeah, that's
To
a
start the
crazy.
show.
That's a
So
that's a
that's,
funny thing.
case in point, Reddit makes shit happen, right? So here we are.
Yeah, Red Dot. When you think about it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So yeah, guys, let us know what you think about this episode. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would like to see more of our episodes on the various interesting cases. And we'll catch you on the next week's episode. And until then, please stay safe and peace out.